one way to incorporate a reflection and active learning into a very large class like you're talking about is have students submit either a mini essay or like an answer to a question or some sort of muddiest points, like what made least sense on an index card, and have them put the name on the index card and pass them in, and that serves as their attendance. So it serves a dual role of making them have to interact in some way or do something active, and you get a record of their name because it gets passed.
Or you can have a scanner at the entrance and they scan there as they get in. So, technology is easy.
One way completely out of having to take anything up and record anything yourself is things that happen in that classroom. If they aren't there to experience it, then whenever they are assessed later on, they're not going to know the information that they need. So it's sort of, the attendance is, well, there's going to be a price to pay if you don't come. Later on, you're not going to know it. Just make sure the classroom experience is adding some value that they have to have. And then it's really, I've tried to do this active learning with group work and so on without learning catalytics for them to get the points. And when they don't get points right up front, they don't always value it as much, and it's hard to get them to do it. So part of the motivation side of it is there. But if you can find some way to weave in more often testing type things where they are more formally assessed, then that ratchets up that motivation.
Another goofy idea is to take a picture and use facial recognition software. Nowhere as deep as what Scott just said.
You realize you're making George Orwell turn over in his grave. We'll talk later.
Okay.
I also want to ask you gentlemen, what is some basic advice you'd have to somebody who's just starting out in active learning in a large classroom?
Don't try to take on too much at once, but don't let that stop you from doing something. And no matter what you do, probably can't be any worse than just lecturing would have been. Listen. If you haven't listened to Mazur's lecture, listen. That's pretty much true.
What I was going to say is stick with it. Don't give in to student demands of you want a lecture, so okay. So that is then they know that okay, you can be manipulated. So then they will try things to manipulate you.
I've never been demanded for a lecture. That's.
You don't have science students.
I would agree with my peers up here. If you are just getting started into this, don't feel like you have to go 100% active learning right away. You have to find out what your own comfort space is and try out some things. Don't be afraid to fail. And the students don't always know what's going on behind the scenes anyway, so they don't necessarily know whether you're satisfied or dissatisfied. And you don't have to rule out lecture completely if you're not comfortable with that. You can integrate it. But again, let the students know what to expect, and you should be all right.
So maybe they should take advantage of the new technology that will help them a lot in whatever they're trying to do. And there is a lot of there like we can use.
Sure is.
There's a 70-20-10 rule, right? Is that still a rule? Or so 70% stick to what you are doing and works well. 20% take things from here and there, something new, try something new, and 10% just go crazy back and try something different. I don't use that rule either, but it's out there somewhere.
Well, I really want to thank you all for coming out here today and sharing your experiences and having this discussion with us. And I want to thank you all for coming too. I'd like to remind you that we have a feedback survey that we will ask you about. That helps us to inform our programming, so we'd appreciate your thoughts. And I'd love some applause for the people who came to be with us.